My friends, hello. I've got another video for you. Obviously. Um, so in excuse me. In the past couple of videos, I looked at how I read the Council of 13 and how I try to tie my readings back to everyday life when the questions are about everyday life. And one of the things I mentioned in that video was how the High Priestess functions in everyday life as something other than a keeper of the book, so to speak. So I got a question, and it was timely because I had already been working on this. But what I wanted to do was just sort of walk through the majors in a minor key, so to speak, from their sort of perches up on Olympus as the, gods and goddesses of tarot. The everyday aspects of them are important too, especially when we're reading about something kind of trivial. And I don't mean trivial as unimportant. I mean just more daily and less spiritual or psychological, which is really the kinds of readings I tend to do most of the time. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. I'll also say what we're going to go through is not something, that you should memorize. What no one needs is another list of keywords, right, for the cards. We've got them. And you don't necessarily want to commit these to memory. And first of all, they're just examples. But second of all, what you want to do, I think, is be open enough as a reader that these kinds of things occur to you as you're doing a reading about something more banal, something that applies to daily life rather than, our psycho-spiritual lives. So that's one thing I'll say is that, this isn't something worth memorizing. What you want to do is sort of start to view these cards through both lenses, and the meanings that you already have, I think, still apply, and in fact are the gateway to the more traditional meanings that I'm gonna share with you. But again, this was just an activity in example. I certainly have no intention of memorizing these, and I don't think you should either. I think it's just allowing ourselves to be open to a view of these cards as more everyday. So let's just jump in. And what I did, and I could have done this a bunch of different ways. I focused on states of being, people, and then actions. But what I also could have included was places and things. But you can see here, I just sort of looked at the traditional meanings of the Fool, or the meanings of the Fool that I've come up with, and I just isolated some ideas around states, people, and actions that are daily, are pretty, banal, and are the kinds of things that we would think about on any given day. So, for example, from states, here I have drifting, homeless, rootless, shifty, or impulsiveness. In terms of people, we're really going with base stuff here, which is kind of the world we're dealing with. So drifters, drunks, morons, hippies. Not that those things are the same, right? But we're trying to think of what is the Fool in daily life. He could be the town drunk. He could be, my new agey side, whatever the case is. And he can represent walking, hitchhiking, backpacking, hiking, travel. These are the kinds of things that he could be. So I did that. I sort of broke it out by category. And then I just came up with like quick answers to questions. Again, this is just sort of working really quickly, really impulsively. And it was actually not super easy for me because I really never read one card to answer questions. It was kind of tough for me. But just sort of working from the meanings and the associations that I worked on each card, I came up with answers to sort of everyday questions. For example, how will the snowstorm be? Well, in the previous slide, I talked about a drifter, and so I thought, well, it's going to be deep. There'll be a lot of drifts. What should I do when I graduate? Go backpacking. What will my new boss be like? Someone who goes from job to job. What's this date going to be like? You'll make some impulsive choices. What's this guy being set up with going to be like? Shifty. All of these are just examples, and really the reason that I never read with one card is because the rest of the cards give context. So I would need more than just one card to know that a guy you're going to go out with is shifty. If I saw that in association with, say, I don't know, the 5 of coins, that might make me go, oh, this is a shifty person. Right, so these are examples. And I should also just preface this by saying that some of the examples I give, because, we are talking about day-to-day life, do include sex. As they say in NPR, this presentation will acknowledge the existence of sex, so just know that. And at the end, I do go through some combos, again, just as quick examples. All right, so the magician. Who's the magician? What states of being can he represent? Sort of willfulness, sneakiness, playfulness, entertaining. Who are the people the magician could be? Performers, gamers, gurus, cheaters. What does the magician do traditionally? These are things that he does. And you'll know that I'm actually, or you might notice that I'm going to some really early pre-Golden Dawn conceptualizations of these cards. Because what the Golden Dawn did, of course, was is that a word? Esotericize? They steeped them, they lacquered them with mythology. But prior to that, they were just sort of archetypes of life. And if you look at the transition from the Magician of the Marseille decks to the Golden Dawn decks, you can see that there's a real transformation. So this could also include like a literal party magician. And then, so what are the states, or sorry, the actions? Playing, showing off, deceiving, acting, or misdirection, right? These are all things that we can associate with the magician, if context suggests it. And so what are some question examples? How would these play? Is she telling the truth? Probably not. The magician deceives. The magician's misdirecting. What should I be when I grow up? A performer. How do I make it through this test? Through sheer force of will. The magician can represent willfulness. How will the interview go? You'll probably have some fun. This is another one where you really need context, right? But you need more cards. You just need more cards. I like to have a lot of cards. Will couples therapy work for us? Only if both of you is telling the truth. So the High Priestess I talked about in one of the previous videos, and I probably have some controversial associations for her, but I think about what she represents in tarot, and I translate that into daily life. And so as someone who isn't revealing all the mysteries, she's withholding. And so that's it's I guess it's hard with archetypes not to fall into the trap of gender stereotypes. So it's important to, I guess, note that when I'm using pronouns here, I'm using the pronoun of the stereotypical character, but I have no problem. In fact, I encourage everyone to see all of these as either gender, any gender, or non-gender, and they're not. You know what I mean? They are states and generalizations. They're stereotypes of people, not of genders. So again, withholding, secrecy, modesty. Who might the High Priestess be? Gatekeepers, bouncers, ID agents, librarians, hiring managers, guards, anyone who sort of holds the keys, anyone who likes quiet, anyone who gets in the way of getting somewhere, or is a gatekeeper, or someone who you have to cross to get through to something. And so what does she do? What are some actions? Reading, guarding, holding on to, or keeping? If this card were to come up and should I tell my friends about what I saw last night? No, keep it a secret. So here are some examples. Why do I think my new boss hates me? Because they're not forthcoming with information. They don't give you everything. They're secretive. What's the best thing I can do to attract a partner? Pretend like you don't care about having one. Can anything save this relationship? Try not telling each other everything. Try not talking all the time. Exercise a little reserve, a little quiet. What's the best use for this weekend? Catch up on your reading. What should I think about before I head on vacation? Set your security alarm, right? Because she guards. The Empress. the Empress and the Emperor are tough because they really represent similar things. So again, it's hard not to fall into gender stereotypes here. You could theoretically reverse them if you wanted to. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, do whatever you want. But so here are things that I suggested: ease, authority, naturalness, quiet power. So who are the people? Mothers are people with motherly approaches. Powerful female identifying leaders usually. Agents are business managers because agents and business managers often help get other people's work out into the world, and that's a common association with the Empress is sort of helping people achieve goals, etc. So also talent scouts and editors. And so actions might be to be a moderator, in a debate, for example, or facilitate meetings, lean in. If you look at the Empress's posture, she's sort of leaning forward and listening, holding attention. Demonstrate how to behave best, exhibit confidence, face the critics. I remember watching a video years ago of a political, a political show on TV, and the people were yelling and yelling, and one of the pundits, this woman, always spoke very quietly. And she would start speaking, and eventually everyone had to listen because she just had this sort of sense of quiet authority. And it worked every time. And I always associate that with this card. So let's look at her in some readings. How do I approach my new team with this news? Say what has to be said clearly and plainly. What's the best way to get out of this rut? Stop waiting for change to happen. You have the power and authority to do it. What's the best thing about this new job? You'll be able to walk softly and carry a big stick. I forgot I wrote that. What quality should I be looking for in a mate? Someone confident enough to know they don't have to show everyone how smart they are. All right, so the Emperor states authority, intimidation, remoteness, power, leadership, unilateral belligerence. People could be fathers or those with fatherly approaches, coaches, authoritarians, disciplinarians, and power brokers. Actions include command, rule, lord over, direct, take over, invade. I think of like headhunters or hatchet people who come in. Although I think I associated that with the death card later on. There are suddenly all these birds out of nowhere landing on in the courtyard in the lawn outside. It's really sudden and strange. Sorry, my desk overlooks my window and I just saw this happen. It was really kind of alarming. Anyway, how does the Emperor function in these quick readings? How do I end this conflict? Take control of the group. How did I get so anxious? You had controlling parents. Should I propose to my other half? Only if you don't mind becoming subordinate. Where should I go on vacation? New York City. Anyone want to know why I chose that answer? Because it's the Empire State. How do I stop my boss from treating me like shit? Assert yourself. Again, all of these really require more context to make this happen. To make these readings really give me confidence for these to be true. But again, these are just examples. The Hierophant, faithful, subjugation, traditional, religious, conservative, those are some states. People include religious leaders or politicians or aides. School deans or principals or presidents, counselors, and actions would include pray, preach, advise, recruit or convert, hold on to. Again, just examples of what a Hierophant or a priest might do in real life. So here's some examples. What should I look for in a partner? Someone who shares your values. What field should I consider transitioning into? HR recruitment. Why recruitment? Because, of course, that's a part of religion, isn't it? Where will I find my soulmate? Wherever you practice your beliefs. Who will win the election? Someone conservative. How can I best win the election? Appeal to people's traditions. The lover, or lovers, states would include torn, indecisive, triangulated, or romantic. People would be threesomes or groups of three, lawyers, young people at the start of their adulthoods, matchmakers in small groups. Actions might include choose, fight over, archery, collaboration, protecting yourself or falling for. And these are all just drawn from common associations. It's just examples. So here's some examples in readings. What jobs should I consider? Matching people to what jobs they should consider. Where's my soulmate hiding? In a garden, because the card is usually depicted in one. What should I do this weekend? Have a little party. What's the best I can expect from this date? Indecision. What's the best way to choose our vacation spot? This should say put, not but. Put a map and throw a dart, as the Cupid is doing. So, as I keep saying, context is key. I would feel more confident with all of these if I had more cards, but here's the Chariot. So victory, motion, command, war, and parading. I think sometimes we forget that the Chariot is actually a vehicle of war, or one of celebration of victory in war. So Chariot people, drivers, soldiers, livery, so anyone who works in service, mechanics and technicians, or jockeys. And actions include ride. I put ride or die because I think there's sort of like a BFF, quality you could read into that. To enlist, as in joining the military, parade, take your car in, or to race. Here's some examples in readings. What's going on with my relationship? It's stalled or it's going too fast. Again, context would help there. Where am I going to find true love? And this is me being coy, but in the back seat. How do I get this project off the ground? Put your head down and power through until you're done. I don't know how to talk to my kids about sex. Just fight through it and do it. How will the court case go? You'll win because this card is associated with victory. Justice. States include sitting in judgment, balance, sightlessness, because we think of justice as blind, and consideration. People associated with this card might be judges, criminal justice professionals, like cops, lawyers, etc., politicians, activists, and deli workers or butchers. Why? Because of that big knife. So, actions include objectify, decide, weigh, slice, hear, judge, consider, or close one's eyes. Some examples include what should I do when I graduate? Go to law school. What's going to be the result of my court case? Justice will be served. That's interesting, right? Because it doesn't necessarily say you're going to win. It's going to say justice will be served, which means if you're right, you'll win. But if you're not, you probably won't. What's the source of my cat's health issues? She's losing her sight, again, because we think of justice as blind. Will I need surgery? Yes, again, because of that knife. Should I quit my corporate job and join a not-for-profit I care about? Yes, because this card could be an activist. What should I know about my new coworker? He's a tattletale. The Hermit, one of my favorite cards. But what are some states here? Isolation, remote, cold, because frequently he's up on that icy mountain. Timely, this is a card that used to be called Time. And it has an association still today, certainly with age and wisdom. So people might include teachers, mentors, horologists. Horologists are people who fix clocks. Traffic cops, just because of the way he's postured. Lighting designers, because of the way he's holding up that lamp, and gurus. You can see what I'm doing is I'm both looking at traditional associations of the cards and just things that are pictured in it, and that's what makes me think of a lighting designer. Time is what makes me think of someone who fixes clocks. So actions might be to light up, light, teach, climb, show, demonstrate, or set an example. All of things mentors do, right? The Hermit. So in questions, will I be alone forever? Yes. Again, context, right? But I'm partly being coy here. Why will I be alone forever? Because you're isolating yourself. What should I do to meet someone? Come down off your mountain. Why didn't I get this job? You didn't demonstrate what you know. How do I get the job? Set a good example for your peers. Context, context, context. I keep saying that. Other cards would make you feel more comfortable about these interpretations, and they would help you reach those interpretations. I guess that's the other thing. I'm giving you a lot of examples here. If we go back to the magician, for example, how do we know the magician is a cheater or a performer? It depends on what the situation is, what the question is. And what the other cards are. The magician is more likely to be a cheater if we're talking about infidelity than if we're talking about careers. Although not, you might have someone on your team who is a cheater. So where were we? We were on the Hermit. So the Wheel of Fortune. This is always a tough one. This is one of my least favorite cards. Just always. But states include shifting, fast, unsettling. People might be anyone moody or mercurial, anyone who works with yarn or fabric, right? Because of that sense of weaving. Risk takers, social climbers, and anyone short-sighted. And actions might be spin, as in to weave or create fabric, change, wait and see, and ride. There's something inevitable about this card too, which makes it interesting from the point of view of like wait and see, because sometimes we just have to wait until things happen. So how can I make this workday go by faster? You can't. It's going to go by at its own pace. Why didn't I get the job? It was out of your control the whole time. What's the best way to convince my boss I need a raise? Show her how much you've changed. And where will I find my soulmate? At a game show. Strength. Strength is pretty easy because strength is strength, right? But you get will, effortful, power, gentleness. People might include veterinarians, circus performers, right? Weightlifters or gym nuts. All of these are pretty straightforward, either connected to working with animals or working with strength. Zoologists. Anyone charming or anyone convincing, I think, are good examples too. Actions would include exert strength, demonstrate force, work out, play with animals, charm people, or convince people. So here are some examples. How do I get people to listen to me during meetings? Show some muscle. Don't just wait. Show what you got. How should I handle this art project? Don't force it. It'll find its way as it develops. This is my card for the year, actually, and it's one of the things I have to keep reminding myself is like, don't force things. It happens as it happens. Who can I trust in this environment? The people who go about their work quietly without showing off. Where should I go for vacation? Animal Kingdom. The Hanged Man is always an interesting one, and I have a very old-fashioned view of this card, but it includes consequences. The Hanged Man, before it got Golden Dawned, was really, was traitor, suffering consequences. So consequences are a big part of this card for me, regardless of how I'm reading. But suspension, suspended animation, and punishment. People would include criminals, defendants, acrobats, school principals who punish. Anyone being punished or facing judgment. Actions would include condemn, suspend, punish, suffer punishment, deal with the consequences of, suspend judgment, or even to hang a jury. And some examples here. Will I get away with it? Absolutely not. What's the outcome of the trial? A hung jury. Where should I take the kids? Cirque du Soleil. So what's this guy got going for him? He's hung. Sometimes it's just, sometimes, again, like I promised that I would be a little vulgar, right? But I don't even think that's vulgar. I think, those are things we think about in life. What if I sneak out and take the car and have it back before mom and dad get home? You will get caught. What's going on with promotion? They're stuck in deciding. What should I do with the student? Suspend him. Context, more cards help, blah, blah, blah. So what does death look like in terms of daily life? Well, nothingness is a pretty big concept, so I almost didn't put it there. But over, harvest, darkness, people would include coroners, professionals, grief counselors, farmers very clearly, or anyone who works in an airport or train station because they're called terminals, and hatchet men. So actions would include kill, reap, end, and gather. So here are some question examples. Will we get back together? No. What should we do as a family this weekend? Go apple picking. There's a little farming action. What does this guy do for a living? Gross toxicology, which is basically what happens with the things that are amputated. What's a good look for the new bedroom? Autumn colors, farmhouse chic, he says. What's the best I can expect from this date? It'll be over soon. Should we run the story? No, kill it. Right. Temperance. Mixing, moderation, wet, balanced, blended. People would include chemists, pharmacists, bartenders, blended families, anyone who's even-tempered, or political moderates, for example. Actions would include mix, blend, stay cool, as in stay cool-headed, even-tempered. Avoid taking a side, and staying neutral is the same thing. Water, generally, and also moderation, or avoid overindulging. So for examples here, we've got, why don't I feel well? You're not staying hydrated. You drink too much alcohol, for example. What's the best way to handle this conflict? Don't take sides. Stay calm. Where should we spend our honeymoon? A resort with great mixed drinks. Which proposal should I vote for? The most moderate one. And who will win the election? The moderate candidate. All right. So again, all based on the idea of temperance or associations with the cards. Devil's always interesting too, right? And the devil I have a strong association with for sex, which is largely absent from a lot of the cards. We talk about love and romance in a lot of them, but sex is part of that, right? And we're going to acknowledge it here. So some states might include kink, but also being trapped or addicted. Those are pretty traditional. Bonded, dark, and devious. People might include prison guards if you think about the way this card behaves in terms of people being imprisoned. Ranchers who also tie up cattle or rope cat. You think about cowboys' lassos, for example. Sex workers, terrible bosses who discipline rather than teach. Doms, anyone dominant sexually or in life. Addicts, particularly sex addicts. Swingers and partiers all could be associated here. And actions might include tie, party, spice things up, sneak, or trap. Again, that's just a small section of what could be a lot here. Why do I feel stuck at work? This person asks, and we say, because you are. And there's probably not a lot of opportunity elsewhere. You actually are trapped at the moment. Why won't she leave that guy? She feels trapped. What do I need to know about this date? He's got some serious kinks. Who should I talk about my problems? Someone who won't take your shit. So in this case, the devil is just a no-nonsense kind of like, they don't go for bullshit. What kind of house should I be looking at? A ranch, because of the rancher. Or one with a dungeon. The tower. So again, this is an interesting one, right? States would include pressurized or released. I think of this as a pressure cooker. Certainly explosive, violent and surprising, shocking, all pretty common. Who are these people? If this represents a person, I would say a linguist or someone who works with language, of course, because of the Tower of Babel association here. Demolition crews, pyros, someone tall, someone destructive, divers or thrill seekers, so, sports, extreme sports, and meteorologists, because this is one of the cards associated with weather, if you think about what's going on here. Actions would include blow it up, start again, dive in, be careful, look out, surprise. So how's this date going to go? It's going to be explosive. Is that good or bad? Context. More cards. How should we handle these add-ons to the house? Tear the whole thing down and start again. Where should we go on vacation? Pisa, because of its tower. What's really going on in that meeting? Someone's getting fired. And where will there be good weather for the trip? Nope. Here we go with the star. The star I have a lot of interesting associations with, but certainly direction is one of them, and celebrity is another. But states might include quiet, evening, stillness, center stage, the center of attention, or height, or intoxication. People might include celebrities, divas, astrologers, astronomers, stargazers, starfuckers, attention hogs, anyone talented, nudists, and navigators. Again, there's a lot there, so how do I choose? Context. Actions would include shine, take the spotlight, look at the sky, get a GPS, own your gifts, be free, get high. So here's some examples. Why am I so unhappy at work? You're not using your talents. Who will get the job? The person who has the best portfolio, or in this case, sort of the best representation of their talent, right? That's what I think of as a portfolio. What do I need to do to prepare for this trip? Get directions. What's my biggest fault? You have to be the star, the center of attention. So there we go with the star. Here comes the moon. Again, some pretty simple associations here. Dark, night, reflective, because the moon reflects light. Gravitational, of course. Instinctive and deceptive. People might include astronauts, anyone who works with water, anyone who works overnight shifts. Coaches, this is an interesting one, but I've done a lot of work around what makes good coaching in corporate environments, and a great analogy that I read is being a mirror. And so a great coach mirrors behavior, shows their people what their work looks like rather than telling them how they're doing. And so coaches are reflective in that way. Fishermen, intuitives, anyone secretives. The moon in combination with the high priestess is going to be super hard to get answers from. Actions might include reflect, go with the flow, stay up late, or look closer because things aren't what they seem. And that's another association common to the moon. So is she too good to be true? Probably, because not what they seem. Am I ready to take this test? Nope, you're still in the dark. How do I get ready to take this test? Stay up all night and cram. Why didn't it work out with my date? You're a space shot. How will this date go? You'll have a strong mutual attention. Again, think of that gravity. Where should I go to see them? When should I go to see that movie? Tonight. The nice thing about the moon and the sun is it can be thought of as tonight and today, and that makes timing kind of easy. Again, though, all of these would benefit from more context. The sun states include hot, bright, warm, smart, if we think of bright or brilliant, outside. People would include anyone who works outside, anyone who's super bright or smart, twins, anyone hot, masons or builders, and mostly because if you think about the wall behind the sun on most cards, and children generally. Actions would include warm up, sweat it out, go outside, build it up, show your brilliance. So some answers here to questions. Am I ever going to find out what's really going on? Yep, it'll come to light. What's she going to look like? She'll be really hot. Where should we go for vacation? Florida. Know why? Because it's the Sunshine State. What's the best way to handle this meeting? Allow everyone to bring their concerns to the table. Bring everything to light. What if I don't invite my sister-in-law? You'll have a much better time. Again, context helps, right? But these are examples. Judgment. So this is an interesting one, and it's very confusing for people sometimes between judgment and justice, but here we go. States would include alert, loud, awake, or seen, all things that you can see happening in this. People would include musicians, sleep therapists, someone who does unboxings on YouTube. Why? Because look at all those people coming out of boxes. Anyone loud. People who are born again, religiously or in some way, born again Christians, for example. Guests at a surprise party. You know, everyone's sort of standing up and shouting, surprise! And someone who does wake-up calls. Actions might include wake up, sing, get out of bed, play that funky music. They're all there's a lot of exclamation points here. So judgment in terms of questions. Why does my boss hate me? Because you're always late. You sleep too late. What's the best way to start this project? With a bang. What's a good hobby for me to explore? Music, or I guess necromancy. Why do I always feel like I'm never getting enough sleep? Your neighbors are too loud. Where should I take Karen for our first date? Somewhere with live music, followed by the Container Store. Why doesn't anyone at work like me? You're loud and judgmental. The world. States would include complete, celebratory, free, surrounded. People, dancers or baton twirlers, anyone confident, anyone who is done with it, if we think about the world as completion. So that would include people who are done with school, graduates, done with work, retirees, done with their divorces, divorcees, and anyone done with a sentence, for example, freedom, prison, parolees. Actions might include dance, exercise, work on your confidence, and wrap it up. So for some examples, why hasn't she called me back? She's over you. She's done. It's complete. What's the best way to spend this weekend? Make a holiday wreath and watch So You Think You Can Dance. I'm going to make you guess why I wrote that. Where should we go on our honeymoon? A world cruise, right? A world tour. What's the best way to make my work life more satisfying? Finish projects more fully. How do I make my tarot readings more practical? Make sure your answers are worldly rather than otherworldly, which is the whole point of this whole thing. Isn't that crazy? All right. So I did do some examples with some combos, just like really quick to say, hey, what could these mean in context with each other? So if we see Chariot and the Death card, probably something's wrong with your car, and I would get it checked. Don't ignore that check engine light. The Strength and the Hanged Man. Ooh, I got two hangmans there. There's going to be some powerful consequences, strong consequences. Temperance plus the Five of Cups. This is, I think, the only time I used a minor card here, but obviously you're gonna use them, right? So this could, Temperance plus the Five of Cups could suggest a drinking problem just based on the idea of Temperance plus loss of cups, right? So there's a thing going on there. On the other hand, the Devil plus the Eight of Cups, and certainly in the Rider-Waite-Smith, might suggest moving away from addiction, so recovery. Justice plus the Hanged Man might suggest the maximum sentence, for example. The Magician plus the Emperor might indicate corrupt officials, people who are deceiving. The Fool plus the Emperor might mean an inept leader. Judgment plus the Sun, early morning. Power plus the Moon, a restless night. I forgot about this one. I mean, this is purely visual, but the Star plus the Hermit, you get a peeping Tom. The Sun plus Death would be a blackout. And then Death plus the sun would be the blackout ending. The church plus the devil might indicate church corruption or religious corruption. The Pope plus the Tower might be an organizational shakeup, so like a merger, an acquisition, a reorg, etc. The sun and the moon, the sun and the moon, all day. How long is this going to take? All day. Fool plus lovers plus force. Innocent young love lasts. Here, the same combo, but with death instead of strength. We get innocent young love ends. I really should proofread more fully. I'm a terrible proofreader. Also, I do these really quickly. Also, example, this is the same combo of cards, but again, context changes things. Stupid choices kill. Some combos here. Fool plus death plus strength. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Chariot plus Wheel of Fortune plus Temperance, tire rotation, and an oil change. I think that's it. Oh, no. I didn't do this one. Oh, I did. I went really sort of like off the rails here. There are some consequences for withholding your dance. Sometimes we get, and the reason I included this one, I forgot about it, is that sometimes we get combos that are really hard and we get something that seems really ephemeral and weird. And sometimes we have to take that ephemeral meaning, there are consequences for withholding your dance, and bring it down to earth and say, what does that mean? And I would say here that if you're not sharing your gifts, if you're not sharing your talents, there's going to be consequences for that. So that's how you take something high and make it practical. And that's that. So again, I hope this is inspiring you to do something similar. I don't think that this is a dictionary of things you should do. I don't think that, there are probably many of these I wouldn't reach for in a reading, but sometimes they might show up. But it's meant to be an inspiration. It's meant to be a moment for you to start thinking about how you can interpret the trumps as something more daily than spiritual or psychological, and how that can be helpful, especially when you're facing questions that are pretty daily and pretty banal, which frankly are a lot of the questions we have. It's interesting for me, sometimes I think, does tarot work? Like, do I even need it? And the answer is yes, but what I find is that when I'm asking big life questions, it doesn't help. Like, it tells me what I already knew, but I've been in therapy for 15 years. You know what I mean? Like, I've developed a lot of life skills to help me know those things. I'm pretty self-aware. It's the little things that I struggle with, and that's where I often need tarot. And that's why I started reading the way I did. And it's been, it's an ongoing journey, but that's what I'm sort of sharing. It's really what Tarot on Earth was meant to help people do too. I find that it's easier to distance yourself from esoteric meanings with older decks, pre-Golden Dawn, but you can see that it doesn't have to be that. So there we go. As always, I hope this was helpful, and I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are, and I hope you're well. Be good.